So we will hop into our NL West preview and round out the show here. So
Yeah.
And real quickly, before we hop into the NL West, we do want to talk about how weak the NL is.
Yeah, I felt like it's been it's not a lazy talking point for us. It doesn't. I'm not here to make this segment shorter or easier, but every single NL, we start with the 3 bottom teams.
Yeah.
Which don't necessarily have too much promise throughout the season.
Well, and
then we talk about 2 teams. I don't want to be boring, but like it looks like every division that we've talked about thus far looks like that. It was just 2 years ago that the Pirates, Cardinals, and Chicago Cubs were all like three wins away from each other, or in between each other was a 3-win range.
Yep.
We're just not seeing that.
I think the Braves were still on top of the NL East.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and we've said this plenty of times in the show previously, the NL really is composed of 6 teams, and then after that, it's
almost like a fight for the last scrap of food.
Either falling apart or just so early in their rebuild that they're not ready to compete yet. Teams such as the Braves or the Phillies, you know, to a lesser extent, maybe the Padres, not exactly ready to compete yet.
Right.
And then you have teams that are in free fall where you're not sure where they're going to be, like the Marlins or let's see who else here. The Pirates are another team that you're not quite sure
free fall.
Where they're going. So in the NL West, you do have the Dodgers and the Giants, who are long and away the 2 best teams in the division. And then rounding out, you do have 3 teams that, you know, are kind of in rebuilds. The Diamondbacks were a huge disappointment last year, especially after bringing in Greinke, you would expect. And obviously they have Goldschmidt, who's one of the better players in the league. Mm-hmm. And they do have some young pieces.
The only thing about the Diamondbacks is they potentially might trade Paul Goldschmidt. Maybe not now, but by that trade deadline. Mm-hmm. Sirens brought to you by Broad Street.
Absolutely. We'll wait for a second for these to fly by because you never get any sleep in the city, that's for sure. And then you also have the Rockies, who are stuck in the middle of a rebuild. They did pick up some nice pieces this year, but I don't think that they're going to compete. And the Padres, you're not quite sure what the hell they're doing.
They have Matt Kemp, and they don't have Matt Kemp anymore. They traded him.
Yeah, he's
that goes to show that they don't really know what they're doing. They're signing free agents and letting them go.
They have some young players, but they went through that offseason a couple years ago where they brought in, you know, star after star after star.
They did,
and it just didn't turn out within the first 3
months.
It
was James Shield and Matt Kemp, and then boom,
they sold it all.
Nothing happened with it.
So we'll start with those bottom 3 teams. We can talk.
That's what we have to do.
I have Padres rounding out the bottom. Last year they were 68 and 94, 5th place in the division. I have the Rockies getting 4th place. Last year they were 75 and 87. Now you could argue that they might be 3rd this year, but I do have a little bit of faith in the Diamondbacks. I know they still have a good core there. They were 69 and 93 last year, one of the worst teams in the league. But I think that was a little bit of a fluke. Now, I don't think they're an 81 win team, a 500 team.
Right.
But I think maybe 79, 78 wins. I mean, how can you not be okay with guys like Nick Ahmed, Greinke, Goldschmidt, Yasmani Tomas?
Well, Goldschmidt's a perennial threat for the Triple Crown because he hits for average, he gets on base, and he does hit home runs. And he drives in runs.
Right.
So this is a guy that is one of the best first basemen in the league. I'd have to say top 3 or top 4 because I think the league is a little weak right now at first base. Now, I don't want to take anything away from him by any means. But if you go around the league and you look at first baseman, I mean, Paul Goldschmidt right now, you could arguably say he's the most attractive first baseman to a general manager.
I mean, you still have guys like Freddie Freeman in the league too, who's young and can hit, but he's not quite a Goldschmidt.
No.
So guys that the Diamondbacks did bring in were right-handed pitcher Taijuan Walker.
I like him a lot.
Shortstop Ketel Marte, who they received through a trade, and Fernando Rodney, who does not line up to be their closer. Their closer, let me pull it up right now. They have it listed as this kid named Bracco, and I've never heard of him before. Silvano Bracco, 24 years old, so he's a young kid. But that's who they have in line as their closer right now, which I thought was interesting because obviously they're going to have Rodney come in and try to train that kid out.
Compete.
And they did lose some pieces. They lost Gene Segura, shortstop, Wellington Castillo, who I believe went over to the Orioles, Dan Hudson, and left fielder Peter O'Brien through a trade. It's a team that, like I said, they underperformed last year. I do see them bouncing back a little bit. Not a 500 team, not nearly competitive in this division, but good enough for third base. Fourth place, I have the Rockies going, and only because they did pick up some nice pieces again. Ian Desmond was a huge signing this year.
Big deal.
And he can play anywhere on the field.
Utility man.
Yeah, I mean, he's Ben Zobrist to a much lesser extent. They also picked up Mike Dunn, left-handed pitcher, and another big reliever, Greg Holland, who will line up as their closer. So they do have some good pitching there with the Rockies, and they also signed Alexi Amarista. But they did have a lot of losses. They lost Boone Logan, reliever, Jorge De La Rosa, who was a starter.
He's been there forever, De La Rosa.
He's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And for many years, their number one guy. Daniel Descalso, first baseman, they lost him. Nick Hundley, who signed, I believe, with the Twins this past offseason. Ryan Rayburn, left fielder, and Eddie Butler, who they traded. I forget exactly where Eddie Butler went. The outlook for them, for me, and I feel like you might agree, but if you don't, let me know. You never really know what the Rockies are doing at this point.
They don't ever have a clear. You thought that maybe they would go into full rebuild once they traded Troy Tulowitzki.
Yeah, and it just never happened.
Because this is a team that I feel like you could have built around Troy Tulowitzki.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have given him a 6-7 year contract worth, $100 million. I think Troy Tulo is worth that. I don't really remember what they got in return from the Blue Jays, but I don't know if they're just stashing it down in AAA.
Yeah, I believe
AA.
I know that they have
Prospects.
one of the more touted, minor league systems.
So maybe that's what they're building for.
With the Rockies that I do like a lot is Trevor Story and Nolan Arenado there at third and short. Trevor Story came on strong last year.
Yeah.
Very, very strong as a rookie. A lot of people didn't think he would pan out at all, and he was huge for them. And Nolan Arenado, obviously, possibly the best third baseman in the league. You have Manny Machado. You have a few other names out there at third, but Arenado is a huge piece, both offensively and defensively.
And that's why I really like the Rockies if they would have kept Tulo. I mean, yeah, I like Story, I really do, but he makes a couple big, spectacular plays.
Mm-hmm.
But on a daily basis, I don't think he does anything over or under what your average shortstop does.
Right.
And so, we're looking at this roster right now, and yeah, that's a lackluster outfield.
Yeah, I mean,
but the infield looks really, really solid with Arenado, Story, and now Ian Desmond will be at first base. It says Mark Reynolds right now, but that will.
Yeah, well, he's going to kind of play around. He was in the outfield last year with the Rangers, so he's kind of going to be. Just a super utility guy for them.
My thing with the Rockies is there's no starting pitching.
Yeah, Tyler Chatwood right now or Jonathan Gray.
Chatwood, he comes out and he does throw hard, but it's just that's a number 3 guy on a World Series team.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's a number 3 guy on the World Series team.
If not even further down. And then you have the Padres,
yeah.
who I think will get 5th, and I don't think they will actually build on any successes. They were 68-94 last year. Picked up Jared Weaver, Trevor Cahill, and Chacin, Julius Chacin, 3 pitchers. But they also lost Tyson Ross, who was a big name for them, and Derek Norris, who is now a free agent again, I believe, after the Nationals cut him. They're in a complete and utter rebuild again. They do have some young pieces with Hunter Renfroe in the outfield, Will Myers, and Austin Hedges behind the plate, who was a big Yankees prospect years ago. But I do not see them as even a 70-win team this year. I could see them hitting that 68 mark one more time.
Well, you can't replace Tyson Ross with Jared Weaver. It doesn't work quite that way. Tyson Ross is a really hard thrower. Mm-hmm. And I felt like if you were trying to – and there's another one thing. I don't know what the Padres are doing. We now know what the Phillies are doing. We didn't for a while. We know what the Braves are doing. They're doing a mixture of free agency and farm system.
Yeah, young guys to bring the new guys.
Phillies
old guys to bring in young guys.
Kind of doing the same thing, except on a lesser extent. We would never make a Matt Kemp type of move. Mm-hmm. Clay Buchholz, I feel like we got on a pretty good contract. We have a couple guys that are veterans that we signed free agent, so I get that. That's cool. But there's a clear direction with the Phillies. Mm-hmm. There is. They're really pushing for Michael Franco. They're pushing for starting pitching, and then they're going to supplement with free agents once those key areas that you don't think you can sign free agently, you would do, through the draft or through just your farm system.
Right.
But with the Padres, I've literally never in my life have truly known what they're doing. Ever.
What a roller coaster ride to be a fan of that team. Because just a couple years ago, you thought they were definitely playoff contenders, and now they are just, contending to be the worst team in the league.
And you can say that about all three of these teams. I mean, with the Rockies and the Diamondbacks being 75 and 69 wins, you could easily have made those games, 13 of those games, wins. And I know 13 games doesn't sound like a lot, but it puts you from, let's say if you're 75 wins, that takes you from 75 to 88 wins, and that's a playoff team.
Yeah.
If you have 80 wins, you have a good chance of making the playoffs, generally speaking.
Yeah, somewhere around
whether
like
it's a wild
85.
card.
Yeah.
So if you're 82 and 82, you're only a couple games out. And some of these games, I felt like they could have won, but their weakness that was exposed was just too much. For the Rockies, they're never going to get anywhere without starting pitching. The Diamondbacks are never going to get out of there if they don't supplement Paul Goldschmidt. And the Padres, I don't even know
not
what they
really
would.
sure.
I would not even know what they would need to do. I am not a general manager. I am not a good enough general manager to know
figure
what
that one out.
Yeah.
Well, we do have about 7 minutes left here, so let's hop into the big guys.
Let's do that.
So in second place, we have the Giants coming in, 87 and 75. Sorry, San Fran fans. I don't think your team made the moves that the Dodgers did to really put themselves as an elite team. They did bring in third baseman Jai Hong Hwan. Sorry if I botched that name up. Nick Hundley, who they also brought in, and Mark Melanson. And then they also lost a slew of names here. Some big ones: Santiago Casilla, Sergio Romo, Chris Heston, who threw a no-hitter a few years ago, 2 years back.
Right.
And Angel Pagan was another name that they lost, and Gregor Blanco. So that outfield got a little
Lost
weaker.
a lot of pitching I see here.
Yeah, a lot of relief pitching.
Javier Lopez was a good left-hander.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, they have a good team. I'm definitely seeing second place. I'm seeing another, 85 to 87 win team.
That's an ugly subtractions list you just gave me.
Yeah.
That's a lot of key names.
Right. Big names for them. In their
Gregor
World
Blanco was
Series
a serviceable outfielder. Santiago Casilla and Sergio Romo threw in the 95 and up.
Yeah, they were the 8th and 9th guys for a long time.
Chris Heston and Jake Peavy were, I don't know about Peavy at that point, or Heston, but they were quality starting pitchers at some point. And then Angel Pagan, didn't he leave and then come back? He was with the Mets for a while. He went around.
I believe he was with the Mets and then just had been with the Giants ever since, pretty much. He's been he's been a spark, and I don't think he's signed yet. I don't think Angel Pagan is even signed.
No.
I think he's still out there.
So,
I definitely see them as a second-place team in this division.
well, yeah, because the Dodgers, let's go over their additions.
Yeah.
They traded with the Tampa Bay Rays for second baseman Logan Forsythe. They got Sergio Romo off of the Giants in free agency. So they literally took one of their nightmares in the late innings and made an addition, a subtraction, or a subtraction to into an addition, whatever way you want to put it. They profited from this move.
Yeah.
Franklin Gutierrez as an outfielder, they signed him in the offseason as a free agent. Jose Miguel Fernandez they signed as a second baseman to a minor league deal. Right-handed pitcher Brandon Morrow to a minor league deal. And then, you remember Ike Davis?
Yeah.
They signed him to a first baseman's minor league deal.
Wearing the shirt right now, actually.
Ike Davis.
Got my throwback Ike Davis shirt on.
Two early comments, Chad Mazeppa and Reynaldo Chinchilla, both huge Mets fans.
Oh, yeah.
Reynaldo's my cousin's boyfriend, and I graduated high school with Chad. Quick story about Chad Mazeppa. He is 4 days older than me and graduated a year after me.
Oh, really?
Interesting story.
Yeah, that's.
He was like going out for his 20.
He
He was going out for his 21st birthday, and I'm thinking, what?
Yeah.
I'm like DDing for my friends.
Brandon Davis wants us to know that Ike Davis has a great name, of course. So as far as the guys that the Dodgers lost Josh Reddick, who was a big loss.
Yeah.
Jesse Chavez, Joe Blanton, Brett Anderson, who was the Twitter diva of their 2015 team, J.P. Howell, Luis Coleman, Jose De Leon, Carlos Frias, and Vidal Nuno, who they traded.
And all of those guys, actually every single one of those guys except for Josh Reddick is a pitcher.
Yeah,
and that is not good in the NL, which is a pitcher's league, and we know that.
Absolutely. The only thing is obviously, and this is our outlook on it, or at least my outlook. They do still have a 1-2 guy who is, obviously Kershaw, who is going to probably be the best pitcher we'll ever see in our lifetimes. We both live to 80, 90 years old. Still could be the best pitcher we ever see. And then Kenta Maeda, who's one of the most touted young guys
absolutely.
In the league right now. So those two are big. And then they have Rich Hill, who got.
Do they have Ryu Jen anymore?
Who's that?
Who's the Asian pitcher?
Yeah. Ryu.
Yeah,
Yes, they do still have him. They have.
He's not bad.
Urias too, who is a big name. So they do have They do have good pitching here.
Hyunjin Ryu.
Yeah,
there we go.
They do have some good pitching here. I definitely could see them. We obviously have the Nationals being an elite team, the Cubs being the best team, the cream of the crop in the NL, and then you got to say the Dodgers are either 2 and 3 right there, and then followed behind with the wild card guys like the Mets, the Giants, and the Cardinals. So my guess here is the Dodgers take this division by a long shot again. Obviously, they have Seager, who was Rookie of the Year.
Good third baseman.
Justin Turner, who for some reason didn't perform in a Mets jersey at all, and has been one of the best third basemen in the league recently. Puig, I think, is going to have a nice bounce back year.
I hope so. He's a big part of our league.
Ethier,
in general,
who feels like he's been there forever, which he has been. He's lined up to start.
Right
Jock
field.
Peterson is still there too.
Where would Ethier start?
They have him on the depth chart right now listed in left.
Interesting.
Yeah, with Puig and right and Peterson at center, and then obviously Adrian Gonzalez and Logan Forsythe at second base. So I think they are
looking
going
at that
to be
hitting as a hitting lineup. That is scary to pitch against.
Oh yeah, for sure. And
if they put up 3 runs and you're facing if you're facing Maeda or Kershaw, you're not really sure if you get those 3 wins back.
Absolutely.
Which is
And at the same time, Julio Urias was their top prospect to enter the year last year. The kid with the goggles.
And he's now up with the team.
Yeah, they have a good amount of guys here. They have Scott Kazmir here too. That rotation is definitely going to be in flux, and they have a good 8 guys here that you could certainly see cracking this rotation at some point. So a lot of depth. You always, teams on average need 8 or 9 pitchers throughout the entire year. Starters.
A lot of spot starters here.
Yeah, so you're going to see a lot of guys come in. If any injury, certainly take over spots. So we have the Dodgers long and away.
And they're a 91-win team. I know the Giants are an 87-win team, but the losses that the that the Dodgers took, I feel like are not more replaceable, but they lost a lot of. They both lost pitching and hitting, but which essentially to me makes them the same type of teams that they were last year. And like I said, with me and the Dodgers, I just don't look at the Giants as having enough firepower to get. Now, could they go in a wild card and then take the Dodgers in the playoffs? That happens every day.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see is the seeding of where the Giants actually finish and where the Dodgers, because I think they're both playoff teams. We're talking about an NL that's very weak. You have your top 2 teams. Well, you have 4 playoff spots, and if 3 of them are already booked, I'd have to say that the Giants are the next best NL team. I think they're better than the Cardinals. The Giants are. And so if you have to, I guess you'd have 2 wild card teams. And to me, those 2 wild card teams would be the Giants and the Cardinals. And I think that's kind of where our playoff picture is. Dodgers, and I don't want to take out the Mets, but with that division, it might be a lot of losses where you don't even reach.
I'm thinking the Mets with the pitching still got that 4th or 5th spot, because if they could stay healthy, I'm thinking the Cardinals would be the odd man out,
Cardinals
as they were last year.
They aren't that good.
So that's about it for the NL
That is
West.
it for
That's what
us.
we've got.